Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the fourth quarter podcast, the number one podcast in sports and entertainment, technology, and finance. My name is Suraj Paramanu, and I'm here with my co-host and childhood best friend, Sid Balaga.
Siraj, it's a sunny day in New York City, so it's great.
Same out here in SF. Today, we have two incredible guests, former NFL players turned sports tech entrepreneurs, Kenyon Rasheed and Brian Jones. Some cool facts about our guests. Kenyon is a serial entrepreneur, former captain of the Oklahoma Sooners football team, and running back for the New York Giants.
So Brian is a familiar face, and you might have seen him on CBS Sports, where he serves as a football commentator on college game days. He also played in the NFL during the 90s with the Indianapolis Colts, Miami Dolphins, LA Raiders, and the New Orleans Saints. So after both of them having an NFL and corporate sports job stints, Kenyon and BJ successfully built and sold Edge 3, an AI powered digital advisory platform that connected high school athletes with the right college athletic programs. Their company was recently acquired by Next League, the leading digital and tech consultancy in sports, where they now run the college sports division. Kenyon, BJ, thanks for making the time and being here, guys.
Oh, my
Thanks for
pleasure,
having
guys.
us.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Of course.
BJ, Kenyon, to get things started, we would love to know how the two of you first met.
I was
First of all,
minding
we
my own
met.
damn business. Can I was talking. You already
Okay, well, go
started.
ahead.
I
You
was
know how you
talking.
Longhorns are. You
Hey,
Longhorns always want
Siraj
to
and
go first.
Sid,
Let you go first.
welcome to our company culture. That was just a snippet of it. As I was saying before I was rudely interrupted, I was minding my own damn business. The NFL had spit me out. I was back here in Austin, completing my college degree. And out of nowhere, here comes this former Oklahoma Sooner fullback who I used to hate because I had to hit his big ass back in the day. And he said, "Man, let me tell you and show you what I've been doing out here in this tech space." And I didn't know what he was saying. Similar to today, 20 some years later, I still don't know what he's talking about half the time. But I was intrigued and I listened. I allowed him to drag me all around the country, even though I was embarrassing myself at different moments. But he for some reason he can tell you had the wherewithal to find me and wanted to pull me along. So thanks for allowing me to tag along, sir.
I say it like this, BJ. We met on the field. Again, we played against each other. So it really, I met BJ through after I got out of the game through another friend of ours, which really kind of talked about our network. And so when he told me where he was at in his career and transition, I was a little further ahead and could start to come back and say, hey, man, this is how things are moving out here that we didn't really know until we got out to this marketplace and got out of the game. So, what I'll tell you is this is BJ is Edge 3. He is everything that embodies what we are start out to do, which is really try to give back to these athletes and tell them how this industry works. The business around what they do works around them. So it's been a hell of a journey for us, and I can just tell you, for me, I'm most proud of seeing where he's at because of where we started.
And let me just put a button on that, guys. He what he did was help transform my mindset from
Yeah.
player to a businessman. And you hear that a lot. Jay Z coined that phrase. I'm a business man, and Kenyon really is the first to put that thought in my brain and help me transition because I had a tough time transitioning out of the league, as a number of guys have dealt with that, navigating uh, that transition. And even though I was in school and I was doing what I wanted to do to complete my degree, and I was doing my broadcasting, this was another layer he laid on top, and it forced me to think in a different fashion moving forward. And I'll end with this. I think one of the great things he told me from the outset was those CEOs in these boardrooms we're heading into, they don't give a damn about how many tackles you made. All they want to know is how you're going to affect their bottom line. And I've carried that 20 plus years since we've been working together.
I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah. One thing I'm really curious about because I know, BJ, you were talking about how you wanted to make that transition from, playing on the field and then going into business. Kenyon, it seems like you had already had like put your sights on that. Can you tell us a little bit about specifically Kenyon, your career aspirations going into technology, and how you were able to transition from going into playing football, getting yourself in that position where you were pushing the envelope or pushing the innovation that was going on in sports through tech. Like, how did you get yourself in that position?
Well, I can tell you my answer 20 years ago would have been completely different than what it is today. How I got into this is the same patterns that I've been doing my entire life, which is I've always been curious about how things worked around me and starting and using data to make my high school selection because I knew where I was going to go. So I had schools and did research and brought research to my mom to say this is why I wanted to go to this school because I knew I was going to end up at this thing, just stuff that I thought at the time was normal. If you go on my LinkedIn right now, you'll see an interview that I did almost over 30 years ago on Nightline talking about college sports and where we're at today, which was having athletes that have a voice, a union that creates leverage to have a say so in the business that is operating around us. And all of that became what I started to build to say, how are the processes in the tech companies moving around those processes that we have all been through? So this was all natural to me. Whatever I touch and learn, I can complex and kind of bring back and translate to this industry to say how it can be used. Starting with my first position at Oracle and SAP, has nothing to do with sports at the time. But what I realized is they were building ERP software based off processes that were required to know that industry, meaning you can't build software if you don't know the processes. And as I used to tell BJ from day one and every athlete that I meet, who knows the processes better than us? We are in it. We do it every day. So if there's software or technology to be built around this, then we should have a little bit of an advantage because this is where we've always been. So that's kind of how I got into technology. And so when we look at the different iterations of it, it all revolves around the same aspect, which is sports and entertainment, processing, whatever the inefficiency is at the time. Let's go find the best tools, or in our case, let's go build it with the next league. But ultimately, it's the same result, and that is tell us the problem because we have different ecosystems of understanding and experience. This is how we can go fix it. And we just keep doing and repeating this over and over again. It's just getting sharper and sharper for us. But this is not going to stop for us because this industry never changes.
EJ, one specific for you, question specific for you. After the NFL, you said you went back to UT Austin to finish your corporate communications degree. Now you're doing a bunch of awesome things. I mean, you have your own radio show, podcast, you commentate for CBS Sports, you run a business with Kenyon. How do you manage to do all these different things? Like, how do you have time in the day to do it?
Hey, man, don't believe everything you read on Wikipedia.
Hey,
A
I
few of
ask
those
BJ
things
the
you
same
mentioned, I
question
don't do.
every day.
That is true. No more radio. I gave that up, and podcasts as well. So it's just the television work and whatever it is, which is a lot, that Kenyon and I involved. So that's the main focus, especially with next league snatching us up, and what a great relationship because as far as
Yeah.
Edge 3, they did our initial discovery and design, and then to circle back here 2.5, 3 years later and say, hey, we like how far you guys have gotten and what you've done. We want you to come in house and And so that's been a great marriage, even though it's still in its infancy. So you just find a way, man. It's football. You got to find a way. You have to find a way to handle it, and that's the only way I know how. And sports teaches you that. We could give up or consider it, throw your hands in there. It's like, I don't have enough bandwidth for all this. And sometimes we don't. We get tired. We get frustrated. And, one day Kenyon might be leaning on me, venting. And I'd sit there and like, give it to me. I understand. A week later, it's my turn. I'm calling him. Actually, it was today. Earlier today, I was calling him, venting. So that's the nature of our relationship. It's a cool partnership. We're
Yeah,
brothers, man. And I
yeah.
know Longhorns and Sooners aren't supposed to mix, but dude, that's my dog. Love him to death. And so we just find a way, Sid. You have to. And going back to sports, and I wish PE was back in school and all that, where you were forced to at least do that, because
Yeah.
there's so many great traits that could evolve within you if you play team sports and just get the gist of how that works and what dividends could you could glean from just participating in those type of activities. So uh, it's simple for me. You got to find a way to get it all done.
I just want to say, for us, at least me personally, of what success always looked like for me, it is feeling like you are in a locker room with a teammate when you're working,
Yeah.
and can you have those types of relationships that you can say, "Hey, man, where I'm weak, you're strong." And I'm not going to try to be you. And I'll tell you something that BJ told me that made me realize this when we were very young. I was trying to mold him to see things how I saw them. Hey, man, how come you can't do this? How come you can't see this? How come you don't know this? And he finally was like, because I'm not you. And it rang on me. You
Mhm.
can't have people around you like you because then we all got
Nope.
our weaknesses, right? It's athletes who are being taught to know every day this is your weakness that you need to address. If you can't address it and we trying to get there as a team, find me somebody who can fit that weakness so we can go win this game. And that's how me and BJ and now next league fit into this puzzle. These are positions on the field that I see that we all have our specialties that blend together that fits this market ecosystem completely, top to bottom. From an athlete all the way up to an owner that has to make bottom line decisions on dollars. We've represented every layer of that over the course of our careers. So everything that is built around it now, we're just seeing from a different lens of having all of that history
Yep.
and experience and sitting in those rooms to now be able to speak upon it. We are experts in what we know. So say there's a lot we don't know, but what we do know about this industry, we know. And we continue to learn because we're always going to be connected to it.
I've told both of you, BJ, Kenyon, that your guys' relationship reminds me of me and Siraj trying to operate and kind of do the fourth quarter and trying to, advance in our own careers. But they say co-founder relationships are like marriages. And you guys describe yourselves as brothers who might occasionally argue and vent and, but reconvene and at the end of the day, grow stronger together. What's the
Yep.
secret in maintaining a relationship with each other, a brotherhood and business partnership for over 2 decades?
Knowing that he has my back and him knowing that I have his back. Yeah, we cuss each other out. We go at each other and we get on each other's nerves at times. That's just part of the deal. That's going to occur. But we also laugh our behinds off. We're going to have a good time. We're going to have fun. No matter where it is, whatever we're doing, we're going to find a way to have fun. But the key to it is not wearing your feelings on your sleeve and understanding that when push comes to shove, he's going to be there for me, and the same here. I'm going to be there for him, whether it's business, whether it's outside of business. We're there for each other, and we've got wisdom and knowledge we impart, and it flows. It's a two-way deal, and so we're open to criticism, and it's constructive for the most part. So it's just goes back to being open to someone trying to point you in the right direction. It's like coaching. You can get upset. I mean, I've had hard coaches. I've had coaches who were a little bit more genteel, if you will. But you have to be open to both approaches. And as he said a moment ago, at the outset, he was trying to turn me into him. Like, this dude, you're a savant. You're a different cat. This dude can see around corners. Oh, where did you come up? And sometimes I have to pull him back. I say, stop. Nah,
Ah,
we're gonna finish this first. Then we'll move on to that because he's always 5, 10 steps ahead, not 1 or 2 steps ahead. I'm telling you, he is way out there. He's seen the next iteration. Okay, from here we're gonna go to here. All right, can we finish this first? So I act sometimes as a governor, a restrictor plate, if you will. My NASCAR fans out there, and but yet there are times when he'll tell me, "Hey, dude, I need you to do better in this area." So that's the
speed
nature
up.
of the relationship, and we both respect each other.
And I
Yep.
and I think the big thing that I enjoy is that we learn. It's no problem to say that
Yeah.
you lost or you failed at something or a task or a deal
Right. Yep.
or an idea or concept. But one thing that we can always do is go back and look at, okay, well, let's go look at where we could have been different for a different outcome. You continue to repeat that process in business, you're going to sharpen those tools, and it's going to be a more direct path that you don't have to guess anymore. And I say you learn through failure. We learn through failure. Oh boy, we learn through failure. But once you continue to learn in the same industry, you kind of start to figure out, okay, well, this is how it's supposed to be. That's been successful. That helps us. That makes us be able to sit in a room with an NFL owner and have a conversation, and sit in a room with an eighth grader that is about to go on this journey for his own sports career, and be able to relate to both because we lie on all of these different areas, right? But the learning process for me is where we connect. The transparency is where we connect, and the authenticity, meaning we are who we are. If anybody talks to Kenyon on the street, you're going to get the same conversation you get now. If you look at the people that I put around me and the athletes, they all have authenticity to them. Gary Payton, Warren Sapp, Brian Jones, Horace Grant. They're going to tell you who they are, even though they may be these high profile athletes, right? At the end of the day, we all connect on that level, which makes this what we're doing with Edge 3 and Next League a very unique relationship because it doesn't exist in the marketplace where you're bringing all of those things together.
That's awesome. And one thing that's great is that you guys were able to come together as a team, as brothers, to go ahead and go with the business venture, right? Obviously, there's some type of brainstorming, figuring out what is the one thing that college sports or sports in general needs. What was like that, time where it was like, hey, we need to create Edge 3. This product is much needed in college sports. What was that origin story? Like, can you tell us exactly the story of how Edge 3 was created?
I can tell you I was pissed off. I created Edge 3 because I was sick of looking at what was going on with the youth sports around college when I already knew the baseline to tell my kids and the kids that are around me. I know you guys are good and your parents spending all of this money, but let me tell you how this line works up here. And what I realized is that a lot of people didn't know what that line was. And because we've created such a huge business off the hopes and dreams of everybody getting to that line, it's a lot of BS that's going on, and a lot of our athletes, like myself and BJ and the guys I work with, were getting bombarded with questions from parents and everyone else, like, what should we do with our kids? Well, I'm like, well, if we have already been through it, we kind of understand what coaches want, but let's go verify. There's probably things out there we can do to go verify. Why are we relying on a third party system to rate an athlete? And if we all look at athletes the same way, and I tell this story because it's authentic. When Will Anderson Jr. came up, and they were like, we should work with Will Anderson Jr. as our first client to just see if we can help. I was like, who's Will Anderson Jr.? And I called BJ. And BJ said, Heisman Trophy. This dude is a, and he started giving me descriptions of him. I said, man, you kidding me? He said, no, I am not playing. I watched him. So I then hung up the phone and called Warren Sapp. He said the same thing. So I kept going down the line. So when I then watched him, it took 5 plays for me to call BJ and be like, yep. Now, what I said is that is athlete intelligence looking at a player. How do we can that? How do we scale that and put it in a way that we can now start to create an evaluation system that coaches and athlete departments and can look at and be like, you know what? I'm gonna trust that before I trust these people who have never done it. And if they have at a very low level and they can't combine the combined intelligence that we can. Now, how do we build that? And BJ was like, I got the idea and the system. He drew everything up on the board and was like, let's go. I'm just playing. But it takes us being able to look at things what's going on in order to put this in motion. Go get the coaches. Well, we got to know what coaches want. Coaches, what do y'all want? You know, Kenyon, you came out of Rockhurst High School. Oh, so based on the high school that I came out of, you already got a sense of who I am. Yeah. Okay. How do we bottle that? So that's how we created this. We went from how do we help athletes? How do we scale that? How do we capture the attention of both sides to create a platform that both sides can eat off of? And that is fair and that is transparent to how both sides want, work, and are able to work in this ecosystem. Same thing we do in professional sports. If I ask you what a player makes today, you're going to know. You're going to know where they rank. You're going to know what year they're going to come out of free agency. You're going to know all of that. Can't do that right now in college sports. So that's where we know it's coming. So we've been planning on that, which is how we built out this platform. I'm sorry, that's my answer, BJ. You want to go with yours?
No. I'm just going to double down on how you started. You know, the genesis of Edge 3 was the fact that we knew we couldn't be everything we wanted to be for every kid. So how do we automate the processes we just undertook with Will Anderson Jr.? You know, with this young man here that's at Loyola Marymount, with this young lady here that's playing at UCLA. How do we take all those different situations and circumstances and bottle those and put them in an engine that can automatically do what we just did? So
Yep.
that was that was how Edge 3 came about. We just wanted to automate the processes and make it available for everyone. And yeah, initially it was about the student athlete, and then we transitioned that. You know what? Student athletes need to be able to identify the right fit, but you know who else does? Those coaches recruiting them. They need to make informed decisions even more so in today's collegiate landscape with all the money that's involved. And it was as simple as that, automating a processes in which I can't tell you how many phone calls we were on. And that's why he
Yeah.
was pissed. We were on all these phone calls. These phone calls would last forever with parents and kids, but we wanted to help. So we would endure.
Yeah.
But we said there's got to be an easier way. Definitely has
Yeah.
to be an easier way. And Edge 3 was born, and the rest is history. Well, we're continuing to make history because there's a lot more coming with
Yes.
Edge 3 here fairly quickly.
That's awesome. Um, a lot of our subscriber base and readership are sports tech VCs and investors in the space. So I bet they're really interested in this next question. What made you guys decide it was time to sell Edge 3 and transition into a partnership with Next League?
BJ, you want to start with that one? And
Open to both, either of y'all.
what, what,
What's
well,
that?
go ahead, BJ. Go ahead. I want to hear your answer first.
Nope, you go ahead.
Okay. All
Nope.
right. Well, one of the things I continue to tell you is that we continue to learn. And what I can tell you is I've never programmed anything. I've never got on a computer, wrote any code, did anything. I never designed anything except some decks and what's in my head. So the hardest thing to do is extract from us in a language that developers can understand and then populate in a correct place is a very hard thing to do. And if that existed, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation. So who can do that? Well, you
Yeah.
got to look at a company and what their capabilities are in-house, not external, because you can't build complex software with AI with mercenaries. Mercenaries are contractors that are
Yeah,
not
we
the
tried.
of the thing. So for your VCs and investors, and what I would tell them is every aspect around the college ecosystem or the professional business ecosystem regarding tech, being where we're at today to where it's going, what's working, what's not working, collectively between Edge 3, Brian Jones, Kenyon Rasheed, and Next League, that to me is the trifecta. That's why we joined Next League. It wasn't just because of what we had at Edge, it was because of Dave Nugent and my understanding and
Yeah.
conversations with him going through the process of being on the other side of having a concept and an idea and needing to frame it up into a product that we could take to market and having the pillars to know what needs to be built so we're not surprised and having that validated by someone who is working at leagues and teams and doing it on the commercial side of what we now know that works. Now, what I tell people is when you see what came from the outcome of our next league discovery from Edge 3 to what we made it from what they gave us is where BJ and Kenyon come in because now they gave us a framework. We were able to take that framework and go find BJ IBM. We needed these tools. Who has these tools? Well, IBM's got it. Well, who knows somebody at IBM? Well, BJ says, like, oh, I know somebody at IBM. And next thing you know, we're at IBM configuring what we already had around their tools. And then we're able to tell that story to the market, which is why we're having this conversation today. So what we figured out is that's a methodology that we are very, very good at, and that is part of this process and this new iteration of Edge 3 and Next League collectively.
Yeah, that having that previous experience with Dave Nugent and Next League really made it pretty easy from the perspective Kenyon just outlined. We had he mentioned a moment ago to one of your questions, there were many failures, and there were, and recent failures because we were going from developer to developer to developer. They didn't have the same vision. They didn't have the same passion for Edge 3 as we did. So clearly,
More
it wasn't going
context
to work.
around the market. Like,
And we had to burn, right. Didn't have any context around the market, exactly. And even though one of the developers was a former player, but he still had no idea what the heck we were talking about or didn't have the sense of urgency with which we needed for the project. So here comes an opportunity with Next League, and they are admiring how far we had come, and it just made sense. Nugent and Kenyon, they're similar in their approach, and they think alike. So that was a nice fit. And our company at large, Pro Club World Sports, is not too dissimilar from Next League. We're out doing the same
yeah,
thing. We got different partners at different levels, and we've got different ways of doing business here and there. You know, we're in all these different spaces and categories. And people would always ask, well, what the hell do y'all do? Well, we don't know, but we do it. And we don't get a lot of fanfare for it, which is fine. So thank you to you guys for, helping promote it. But, that's not something we've ever sought. But here it is now because of Edge 3, more attention. But we would just keep our heads down and go knock out business here and there. And I'll say this, we've probably put more money in former players' pockets than the NFLPA or the NFL period, because the guys know when we call, there's a check in hand, and we're not asking them to do anything free or anything outside of their core competency, but we want to include them in this journey. So it was just a natural fit going to Edge 3, excuse me, going to Next League because of the prior work they had done with us, and we paid them pretty good for that work. And so all the things they
Yeah,
have,
we got to
all the
call Dave and get some of
capabilities
that
they
money
have in.
back or something. Right?
I know. Can we get a rebate? Can we
A
get a
rebate.
rebate? What is it? A buyback? A buyback?
Yeah,
Can we get a
a
buyback?
buyback. I think that's what they call it, a buyback program.
A buyback. No, it was it was wonderful, and be able to circle back, as I said a moment ago, a couple years later, and not only continue to build Edge 3, but work in other categories. It's been glorious, man. It's been cool.
Yeah, Next League has been super active in terms of mergers, acquisitions, just investments. So I'm super pumped to see you guys cook up and see what the college sports division looks like at Next League. Super excited for it.
And you might
Yeah,
see
and
us in other
I just want to
areas,
say one
not
thing.
just outside of college
Oh,
as well. So
Kenyon, go
just,
ahead.
yeah, just want to say you might
What's
see
that?
us in other areas outside of college, because college sports is professional sports,
Yeah.
guys. It operates the same in
Yep.
terms of business metrics. They have stadiums and venues. They have international play now. They have marketing. They have IP rights. They have television. They have media. It is the same environment. So we're in sports. Like, even though we're in college, the college focus, but it's the same types of products and services that we've been doing the last 20, 25 years.
Kenyon, you threw me an alley oop for our next question, but in our previous conversations, you mentioned that college teams and college athletic programs need to start looking at their organizations as entertainment companies. You're banking on the NIL being, as big as it is today. Why did you both have that much conviction? Like you guys nailed it on the head there.
Well,
Because we've been in those rooms with them, and we knew what was coming down the pike. What is it Dave Nugent likes to say? What's coming next?
what's
And
coming
and I,
next?
and I said a minute ago, this dude can see around corners, but just sitting in those rooms, understanding the ecosystem. And I was saying this on some of my CBS shows a while ago, maybe well over a decade ago, that once these athletes understand how much leverage they actually have, we're going to be in a world of hurt, because they might get up one day and say, "Hey, we ain't showing up on game day." And you had some discussions of that, similar to that, occur. And Kenyon mentioned, being on Nightline. Well, when I returned to the University of Texas to complete my degree, I wrote a paper similar to his discussion on Nightline about how players needed to be compensated, not necessarily pay for play, which we have now. NIL has not been employed as it was designed, but I thought they should, at the very least, be able to benefit from, yes, name, image, and likeness, or get a royalty, is how I couched
Well,
it
first of
back
all,
then.
I'm sick of
We
that
didn't know
term,
anything
name,
about
image, and
NIL,
likeness.
but
NIL should
yeah,
be, when I ask people simple question, what does name, image, and likeness mean? And you're gonna get all kind of different answers by people who have
yeah,
never had to leverage their name, image, and likeness, but more so their athlete intelligence. So this is the difference. Your name, image, and likeness only has a shelf life. Your athlete intelligence, however, doesn't. So when I'm 85 years old, what I learned playing this sport, being in this industry, has value. Only in our industry do we not value that at the end of the game. Meaning, if you played 15 years in the NFL and you're not a coach or a broadcaster, how are you able to take what you've learned and disseminate that? So I am constantly looking at ways that what are we looking at that nobody else is, because we have a different lens that we can view it of. And if you can talk to enough athletes, guess what? You're going to get different lenses and you're going to find out different things you didn't know, because all of our journeys were unique. All of our backgrounds are unique. But the industries that we touch currently, just connectivity, never existed when me and BJ came out. So if you think about the changes that have happened, we always believed that we should have a union and a place to navigate, but I had no way to connect with Brian Jones at Texas while I was at Oklahoma. But now through these social networks, because of travel sports, all of these kids are connected. So it allows us now to create community and create leverage. And what we see is that community and leverage now being able to impact the industry, because these athletes now can come together. So that's where I think, and I started to see all of that come together because of technology. So how do we stay ahead of that? Well, when we said to Texas in 2018, before NIL was passed, what's the value of what you can give an athlete when he leaves your school? Outside of cash, it is audience. You see BJ wearing a UT shirt right now. He is ingrained into the UT community, which means he's got lifetime NIL value to the University of Texas. He talked about the hoodies that we are selling at the University of Texas. And I'll keep saying Texas because I don't go to Texas and never have gone to Texas. But BJ has. And what did he do? He went down there and he created a new business using his athlete intelligence, name, image, and likeness, and whatever else you want to call it, to create revenue opportunities to show athletes how to do it. To me, that is what we are trying to get done. That is what we're working with Next League to put into systems and platforms that are easily consumable by these athletic departments. And I think we are very close to getting there and super excited, man. So y'all get me talking about this. This is
and
why.
I'll just
Yeah. Go ahead, BJ.
and I'll just lay on top of that, Kenyon. We don't go in and disrupt what they're currently doing. We just
Yeah.
assist them with their current assets. We assist them in identifying how they can realize or generate more revenue with their current setup, or maybe tweak this here or there, or add, this to your tech stack. That's it. Yeah, we don't go in and do any disruption with partners or anything of that sort, but there are ways to maximize those assets that they don't see, but we see.
Super interesting.
One
And
thing
technology is the key to that. And that's how we use it. It's not the tech, it's how you use the tech. That's the key.
They got enough tech. All the tech exists.
Yep. They got
That's what
more
I'm
than
saying.
enough.
Nobody, you think you're
Yeah.
creating something new, and then you find out, no, well, I'm really not creating that new. There's about 18 of them out there.
No.
So the question is, which 18 of these do I use? Because I'm running a team or I'm running a league. And by the way, anybody that's putting money into this, what I would say is, when I was in the payment industry, people who wanted to invest in payments called the people who worked at payment companies to find out where I should put my money, because I know you tied to the industry. You understand the competitive landscape. You know what business models work because you worked inside of it. So all of these VCs just putting money into sports tech. You need somebody that can give you those answers, and that's us. That's Next League. That's what we do. So I would tell your investors,
Yep.
we have a good understanding of the ecosystem. We can wage against your risk against that dollar that you invest in. because we can tell you what those risks are. We can tell you the companies that are involved. We'll tell you how they actually can be integrated. And if there's a roll-up strategy, what products and workflows make sense. And not only can we do that, we've done it. And here are the use cases that we can put Verizon. Here's just how we work with Verizon. Well, what did you do with Verizon? Well, that's what you're going to have to really figure out when you actually talk to us, because we do work with these type of brands. At the same time, we work with student athletes.
Yeah.
So just let everybody understand. So if you have a company that are working with teams, leagues, student athletes, and brands, media, you have an ecosystem that is covered around our entire business landscape. That's what we are bringing to the table at Next League. So that's why I'm so super excited to tell everyone that this is a very unique opportunity for them to work with us before they put dollars into things that they don't know about. That's it.
And that's how we've always worked, guys. And
Yep.
going back to Pro Club World Sports, or Pro Club Agencies, we call it now, is we go and we listen to the market. We let the market dictate, and then we'll go back to our partner and say, hey, I need you to build this for this particular situation. I need you to build that, or we'll marry solutions. We don't go in and say, hey, I got the latest, greatest, you got to have this. No, it's not a nice to have, but a need to have. That's
Yeah.
the story we're selling right there. And so we think, and we like to say we're great at project management. That's what we got so many different relationships across, as I mentioned a moment ago, different categories that we can find a solution. If we can't, we'll let you know. Nah, can't help you. But more times than not, we're able to assist, and we're going to do it in a timely fashion, saving you money, because we don't want to be an expense. We want to be a service.
Yeah, we do want to be an expense, but we want that expense to be against an expense, if you know what I mean.
I didn't say we
So,
were going to be free.
yeah, because the way that sounded, DJ, if I didn't know any better, I'd be like, oh, so you guys don't charge for this. No, we're not saying.
No, 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 no. Okay, let me rewind. Well, I ain't gonna put it that manner. This is a family show. I ain't gonna say it that way.
No, it's a unique.
Kenyon, BJ,
Great.
one thing that based on just our conversations, previously and now, is that you guys are really good at identifying very unique opportunities before, things play out, like with, college sports becoming almost a form of entertainment where, players are now getting paid. And you guys are working now at Next League, which has a very broad mandate when it comes to sports. What are some of the unique pockets or opportunities that you guys are planning on working on? It seems like you guys are hinting that you guys will probably be expanding outside of just college sports. What will that look like? What will that consultancy look like? Where do you think tech can disrupt, just sports in general, not only in the college level?
Kenyon, I'm gonna start with this, and I'll just say, I can't tell you how many times I've looked at that dude and I've said, "That's what we were saying 5 years ago. That's what we were saying 10 years ago. That's what we were saying, 15 years ago." And so I say all that to say this: we have been ahead of the curve numerous times, and that's not a pat on the back. That's just how it's landed. It's been amazing, and the market wasn't ready for what we were bringing to them at that particular time. And it goes back to what we were just discussing, telling these athletic departments, you have to see yourself in a different light. You're no longer the conventional athletic department that we grew up with. You are an entertainment division, and you look at these TV contracts, and now you've got NIL, which we saw coming very soon, and so you have to view yourself in a different manner. So I just want to share that, and Kenya, I'll let you dive into where we're headed and what we're seeing these days. Because there are a lot of different buckets in which we're involved.
There's gaps in our industry. So what we know and what we always look at is, where's the money at?
Yeah.
Where's the money coming in? And where do we believe that money and that ROI is going to exist in our industry based upon the indicators and markers that we have access to, which are the companies and the clients that we collectively work with. So then we start to create a picture. So when BJ says I look around corners, no, I don't. I can identify indicators that other people are not looking at because they're not consumed with the whole ecosystem. They don't work with venues and teams and payments and AI and software and keep going, GPS units with Catapult and open doors and influencers and all the companies that we have been part of at some point. Then you start to understand, okay, you have this piece. Okay, but you don't have these pieces.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this company has these pieces. Okay, so now you start to understand how to build it out the models. The question is, can you get to market fast enough to see 2-3 years ahead? Have a shop that can build you the systems that will be set up for that environment and get it done before you reach that time frame. We were telling you about the transfer portal 2-3 years ago. We were talking about open free agency in college sports because of legislation and what the schools had to do business wise to start to set this up as a sustainable business that they knew were changing and in transition. All of that originated from us understanding payments. You asked that question because then we were able to look at the financials and understand what college athletic departments were really making and understand where the deficiencies were and how they were going to have to generate more revenue. The only way you generate more revenue is you're going to have to change your business model up a little bit, and you're going to have to find optimization opportunities within the assets that you already control. Payments were one of them, which is why we went after payments. So this is what I'll say. If you understand the business metrics of what is going on, and you understand the risk factors of the dollars going in, then what we start to do is build tools to measure against that risk and then optimize their current assets that they have. No school wants to figure that out. Let me tell you that. No startup company that has a software system or whatever is thinking about getting in wants to figure that out. Edge 3 and BJ and Kenyon at some point didn't have time or want to figure that out. So we went to a company that could help us figure it out. What I would say is coming is that is available to brands and marketers and media companies and athletes. We are here because we can fulfill orders and help you and assist you in where you're trying to go. If that's getting to college, sure, we got software to help you do that. If it's picking out the right athlete, we got that to help you do that. You want social listening and marketing, we can help you do that too. You just want to integrate your current stack because you don't know what the hell's going on and your business is changing and I got to go hire some more people to do things that ain't never really been done within my athletic department. We can help you do that because we have the experts in all of the different areas to help you facilitate it. That's what is really coming and what Next League is going to be about in this next couple of years.
Nice. That's awesome. Last few questions for you guys for the sake of time, but
Pause 1 second, Sid. Let me let these dogs out.
sure. Kenyon, how you feeling? How do you think it's going so far?
Feeling good. Man, I'm doing good, man. It's been a stressful day, but what's not stressful when you got technology, right? But no, we got a couple big things working, so
I agree.
really kind of focused. As you start to understand deals and people, and you're like, oh, we've been there, or we know that, or we've done that, or we have time. So it just happens over and over again. No matter where you go, it's like, what room are you in? What are y'all doing here? And we always like, well, what are y'all doing here?
Yep.
Like, whatever room you in, we in. Even rooms we really not supposed to be in.
there too. Don't pigeonhole us.
So y'all in AI? I try to tell people, BJ, what is AI to you? Like, what we set up and did was
athlete intelligence. We're on the IBM advisory board. Like, okay.
Learning AI in AI shops. And I'm like, hey, tell me how you did this for your company with AI. Oh, you have customers. Oh, okay, well, in our industry, what are customers?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so we got that covered. Tell me how you working with your customers. Oh, you got to stay in contact with your customers. Oh, Y'all got to stay in contact. So we start to do these markers around existing technologies so we don't have to make it up. We already know how it's being socialized, used. All we have to do is translate that and adapt it and add our customization to it to make sure that it's commercialized and it works. And to me, that's
Yeah.
a
I'll give you an
methodology.
example. Can- Yeah. I'll give you a good
Go ahead.
example. I mentioned the IBM Advisory Council.
Yeah,
We're sitting
go
there
ahead.
a year ago, and we partnered with IBM's Watson X, AI capabilities for Edge 3. And we're sitting in there, and I text Ken. I was like, I'm the dumbest dude in here because it's all their other, clients who are utilizing Watson X. And then a few minutes later, I text him back. He's like, oh, shoot, I get it. Similar to what he just described. What they're doing over here at Discover Card, what they're doing at Visa, what they're doing at Hyatt, that's applicable to what we're doing in the sports space. So it's just finding those fits or borrowing from what we're doing in larger society and applying it to the sports ecosystem. That's as simple as I can put it. But you have to have an understanding, as Kenyon mentioned, of the entire space and where this goes and that goes and how you can apply to different areas of the sports ecosystem. So that's been the education I've received over the last couple of decades, just sitting in these rooms and listening how, all right, that methodology there can work over here. So we're not really reinventing the wheel. I like that we're reapplying it. We're reimagining
Yeah,
how things can work in
reimagine.
the sports world, utilizing, same technology. Yep.
Cool. And
And
for the sake of time, we're gonna keep it to two other questions. I'll do one and then
Cool.
Siraj. But um, I'm super curious. You both have sat in numerous rooms with the biggest sports team owners, investors, leaders in tech. Could I get from each of you your biggest takeaway or observation that you've noticed in these experiences?
I can tell you mine first, which I think is unique.
Hmm.
The higher you go, the less presentation you need. It is a discussion around value proposition to both
Yep.
sides. And if you don't have a value proposition, you shouldn't be in the room. Don't call me if I am an owner unless you truly understand my business and where I need to go.
Yep.
Now, I would say the same if I am a student athlete or I'm Will Anderson's parents. And we set up and told them, this is what you're going through. And here's our value proposition to you as a family to help you do something you're trying to do. At the end of the day, that's what everybody's trying to do. It doesn't matter if you a CEO or if you're a student athlete, you're trying to make better decisions. And we're sitting in this room that if you can help me do that, then there's a value of having a relationship with you. The question is, are you credentialed? Meaning, do we know who you are? Do you have a footprint in this industry? Are you connected? Do you know the partnerships in the ecosystems? And do you have the relationships to access intelligence in real time? And then, more than anything, do you have competency in the areas that you're discussing? And that competency is where we specialize. This is where we believe we have a unique, very unique view because we have set into venue management. We have set into AI. And we've seen the products and services and how we've mapped them into this industry, from the medical to the gaming to the sports marketing to we can keep going. And those are all footprints that we now are bringing together to leverage out to these clients. That makes sense.
I would say my biggest takeaway is, and it's going to sound harsh, but it's the truth. Sometimes the how limited the knowledge is of the particular space some of these people work in. It's just the truth. It's
Yeah,
like,
okay.
damn,
No,
how you
that's
get this
fair.
gig?
That's fair.
I know it's fair. It's the truth. I'm just like, okay, they must have just wanted to fill a seat or something, uh, which is fine. And I tell Kenyon this all the time. Like that just makes our value prop, more needed, more valuable, right? So that's been the biggest takeaway, and it's great that they can't see things in the manner in which we see them. That gives us an opportunity. Okay, we can come in and help shape the future for this particular company, and that's what's cool about the whole deal. And Kenya mentioned, sometimes we're in those rooms and people look at you like, "What are you doing in here?" And I'll tell you a quick story. I worked for Fox Sports Southwest, and I'd set up a meeting with a client out of Australia, and I worked with the powers that be there at Fox Sports Southwest. Client came in on a particular day, and I'm sitting in the meeting room with the client because we don't just do referrals or make introductions. We help devise a strategy, and then we go in hand where both of us have skin in the game. We're not just going to set you up and say, "Hey, this is so and so, talk to him." Nah, that's not how we work. And so I'm sitting in this meeting, and my boss like, "What are you doing in here?" And I had to explain what I just explained to you. Boy, this is my client. I know I'm your broadcaster, but that's not all I do. So don't put me in a box. And so, those are certain things I've gleaned from the space. But it's it's opening up from the standpoint of people are seeing the bigger picture now, especially with all the turmoil and trends and turbulence in the college space. There's more of an opportunity nowadays, and where there's challenge, there's opportunity. So we're going in and trying to fill those gaps and assess and address those challenges.
This podcast is very much riddled with a lot of life lessons, also business skills that I would say a lot of our audience is sports enthusiasts, young founders, potentially former athletes who want to jump into the business space. And I just have one like final question in this regard. If you can consolidate all these learnings, and I know this is a tough one, consolidate all these learnings and to communicate to someone who wants to start a business in sports, what's one piece of advice you would give to help them avoid the biggest mistakes, whether it's things that you faced early in your career or what you've seen other founders have made?
I would say, and this is a rule of thumb in my broadcasting career. Do your homework, do your research. You got to be prepared. You definitely have to be prepared and also know who's in that room. Do your homework on them. I'll give you a quick example. Going back to Colorado, Kenyon and I are meeting with Prime's people, Chief of Staff David Kelly, some of the coaches and others that are in the front office there. And Kelly just stopped and said, "How do you know so much about this coach? How do you know so much about that guy?" Because in our preparation to come in and speak, we find out who the heck we're speaking to and what their background is. So you have to know who's in that room, what role they actually play in the whole scheme of things. And I think that would bode well for you. I know it does. I know it bodes well if you know who's in that room and you are prepared. You have done your homework. And Kenyon will attest to this. More times than not, you're not getting through that deck. I can't tell you how many pretty decks we put together, and we might be getting 2, 3 pages deep. I remember we went to Tennessee, University of Tennessee, and we had a young lady we were working with at the time. And I was like, "We ain't getting through that thing, Deck. You worried about this?" No, that never happened. So we put our heart and soul into these decks. That's fine. But more times than not, you just got to talk to people. Kenyon said it earlier. If you can convey what that value prop is and you have an understanding of where where the pain is for that particular entity, just have a conversation and talk to that and give them your value prop, deck or no deck, you're gonna be just fine.
BJ, I feel like I can talk to Siraj and I can talk to both of you guys all day long, both personal and business stuff. I'm looking forward to all of us linking over dinner sometime in the coming future. But I just wanted to say Thank you for taking the time out of your busy days, guys. We really, really appreciate it. And you guys are awesome, great, and we're looking forward to being
It was
close.
awesome conversation. It was sick.
No problem. No problem. Thank you guys. Sis Rise, much luck with the podcast. Glad we could play a small part, and we'll see you guys soon. We will break bread in New York or San Francisco.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks,
100%.
guys.
Thank you.